Well, my name is Linda Kaye, and I am the director of our Christian Meditation Center in Neptune Beach, Florida. And I am not a therapist. I don't work in the field. I'm not a professional in the field. I'm a recovering alcoholic addict, and I've been sober and clean 27 years. Last Friday, I had celebrated my anniversary, and I'm grateful to be here. I'm comfortable to be here. This wasn't my plan, and when I got the email last week, I live in Neptune Beach, Florida, and when I got the email last Wednesday that Terry couldn't be here, I don't know him, we emailed back and forth, and I said, well, it really wasn't my plan, and he said, well, wasn't that John Lennon that said that
life will happen
when you're making other plans, yeah. And I said, in the rooms of recovery, we say, if you want to give God a good laugh, tell me your plans. So this was not my plan. But I just want to, is everybody here familiar with the 12 steps of recovery? Is anybody not familiar?
I don't know what the 11th step is. So.
Okay, you know about the 12 steps? Okay. I have handouts here that we can give later. I'm going to ask May if she would read our mission statement from Christian meditation as an 11-step practice. And that also includes step 11 of the 12-step program.
This mission statement is what we read at the beginning of a meditation group that is for people practicing the 11th step. And step 11, I'll read after the mission statement. The mission statement is, we are a group of men and women from 12-step programs following the teachings of John Main and the World Community for Christian Meditation. We are not a replacement for, nor are we affiliated with, any 12-step program of recovery. We are here to share this ancient path of contemplative prayer as a way to practice the 11th step. And step 11 from our program is, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out.
Thank you, May. So this is the 11th step of the 12-step programs of recovery. If you're not familiar, I have handouts afterwards. The first step is we admitted we were powerless. We surrendered. The second step is we came to believe in a power greater than ourselves. The third step is we turn our life and our will over to the care of that power as we understand him or her. And the fourth step is we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we share that inventory with another person and God. And the 6th step, we become entirely ready to have these defects of character that we found from our inventory. We become ready to have those removed. And in the 7th step, we ask them to remove. We become ready first. And the way we become ready is we live sober, and we find that we're still having problems. Because everything I've heard today at this seminar is exactly what this 12-step program is about. It is about love, finding our true self, gratitude. It is leaving self behind. It is about the problem of the alcoholic, and I'm speaking as a person in recovery. The problem of the alcoholic lies in their thinking. Alcohol is only a symptom of the disease of alcoholism or drug addiction. It's only a symptom. So when I came to the rooms, I thought, well, if it's a symptom, then what's my problem? And I said, the problem is selfishness and self-centeredness and living in a state of constant and normal fear. Now, at the cellular level, the medical level, there's all sorts of theories out there, and I'm sure they're valid. I don't really care. I don't really understand them. All I know is if I put any sort of alcohol or drug into my system, I will be addicted to it. I refer to addiction and grace during this talk. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this book.
I'm just reading it.
You were just reading it?
One of the best books I've ever read.
Yes. Well, Dr. Gerald May, he was a psychiatrist and spiritual counselor and senior fellow in contemplative theology and psychology at Shalem Institute for Spiritual Formation in Bethesda, Maryland. I only came across this book maybe 4 years ago or so, and it spoke to me so much from the point of view of addiction and grace. Let me tell you a little bit about Christian meditation as an 11-step practice, how that came about, and how this connects with this seminar about mental health, recovery, and meditation. I was sober 17 years at the time. I was 39 years old when I got sober, and I was desperate. I was told at that time that I would never return to society. I was a flight attendant for 17 years. Actually, I did return to society. You can see I'm standing here. But I went to a treatment center in 1983, and I did not stay sober. But in 1984, I had the gift of desperation, and to me that was a gift. I didn't think so at the time, but it was a gift. And then I was found AA through the treatment center, and then I found that my recovery was based on a spiritual condition. That was a problem for me. We hear a lot about depression in alcoholism. Alcoholics come into the rooms or they go to therapy. I went to psychiatrists and therapists long before I ever got sober, but I never was honest with them. So if I'm not honest, they can't help me. And since I'm speaking from that point of view, I can tell you that being clean and sober all these years, that's, unless the person is in recovery, they're really incapable of being honest. So the first step is to surrender to a way of recovery. So at 17 years, I was working the steps and doing everything that I was told to do. And I was very suicidal in the beginning because alcohol and drugs was not the problem. I didn't have any place to go to bring comfort. So I was told to find a God, any higher power, and pray to it. I did that. But because of wounds from the past, and we all have wounds, I couldn't go there. So it was a choice of suicide and sobriety. Well, that was the only choice. I wasn't going to drink or drug. But there was a grace, there was a gift. And that was, I was given a spiritual experience that didn't do anything to change who I was, but it gave me hope that there actually was the existence of love. Because today we've heard all about love and truth and unity and community and being related to other in relationship and disconnectedness, and I can relate all of that to the 12-step program of recovery. So I was journeying along and growing spiritually, practicing Buddhism meditation, order of inner being, to Thich Nhat Hanh, and many other ways, many other searchings along the way, always going to my 12-step program, doing what they told me, but I wasn't finding relief. I had a spiritual thirst. I have a handout here from Carl Jung, and some of you may be interested in this. It was a letter that, I don't know, you probably don't know anything here about how the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the base of all the 12-step programs, and that began in 1935. And Bill W., who was one of the founders, and Dr. Bob, he had a terrible problem with depression, and he wrote a letter to Carl Jung, and Carl Jung responded to him in 1961. Now, Bill W. got sober in 1935, so this was many years later. This letter was responded. I mean that they had talked about the spiritual thirst, and along with emotional sobriety. But anyways, Dr. Carl Jung says, the craving for the alcoholic was the equivalent of a low level of the spiritual thirst of our being for wholeness. Isn't that what we were just talking about this morning? I sat there and I said, oh, well, that's what it said when I first came into the recovery rooms in this little book they gave me, in the 12 steps. And it said that if we follow the spiritual way of life, we will be restored to wholeness and purposeful living. And this is what I heard today. So, and Carl Jung said the craving for alcohol was the equivalent on a low level of the spiritual thirst of our being for wholeness. And he's talking about an alcoholic who went to him. And then he goes on to say that, and this is a similar thing we heard here at the end, you see alcohol is in Latin is spiritus, and you use the same word for the highest religious experience as well as for the most depraving poison. The helpful formula, therefore, is spiritus contra spiritum. So I have that letter. You might be interested in seeing that he wrote to Bill W. I'm journeying along here to finally get to the point of the Christian meditation, but the background here is about the depression and the mental state of the alcoholic, of the addict. I love what Dr. Gerald May said, that to be alive is to be addicted, and to be addicted is to be in need of grace. And because today I understand that yes, the addiction that of alcohol and drugs, I've seen many of my friends die. We're told we'll go to institution, jails, or death. And that doesn't only happen during the period when people are using, but in the 27 years I've been in recovery, I see this happen without ingesting any alcohol or drugs, because they find the 12 steps lacking, very much like I thought it was lacking. Today, I never stopped going to meetings, and I never left, but I became disillusioned, disenchanted, as I did with everything in my life. There wasn't any perfection. There wasn't anywhere for me. Not in any church, not in any religion, not in any philosophy, not in any relationship. There was never that place of wholeness or contentment or peace. And that started seeping into my journey of recovery. At 17 years, I started thinking with, I called it, well, I didn't call it, I heard it. It didn't originate with me. The 3 C's. I became cynical. I became condescending. Well, sarcasm, criticism. Thank you. You were the same, too. Yes, I became critical, condescending, and cynical. And that was the way that I lived in that negative attitude before. And I do, the old ways of relating to people through sarcasm, through putting on that mask, through not letting you through to my heart. We heard so much about the heart today, over and over, that place of the heart. I share with people that the heart was so frozen over with wounds, resentments. The crux of the problem of the alcoholic is in the thinking, but the heart is so blocked from any sort of true emotion that it takes a long time. I call it the iceberg. It's thawing, and it takes a very long time.